Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to our budget meeting for this Thursday, March 19th, 2026, as Councillor Brooks has noted. I'd like to welcome everybody and call our meeting to order at 9:02 a.m. We're just going to jump right into things. First up on the agenda is our decision items. This is 2.1, which is our final operating budget deliberations. And I will hand it over to Ms. Thompson this morning. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning, Council, Mayor and Council. It's very exciting because now we get to have a conversation about budget again, and then we can finalize it and we can actually operate in 2026. So this is very exciting times for everyone. So I will, you will note that the introduction did not change from the final or from the interim budget as presented, but I do want to go over some of these highlights again because I think it will be relevant for our conversations later on. So the municipal budget is indicative. Let me just do this. Sorry, I'm in charge of this as well. Excuse me. The municipal budget is indicative of the efforts of both administration and council to meet the needs of Drayton Valley in 2026. The 2026 budget assumes that prior service levels by council are maintained. Additionally, the draft budget includes inflationary and cost of living increases in multiple expense types, including utilities, wages, insurance, and protective services. However, with cost savings in some areas and additional revenues in others, administration was able to increase reserve transfers with minimal increases in rates. Members of the community often inquire on where their tax dollars are spent. The top graph provides a visual representation of how Drayton Valley tax dollars work for the average property owner. The bottom graph shows the types of expenses their tax dollars are spent on. And this is where I think this is going to be relevant to the conversation we'll have a little bit later on regarding rates. So here are some comparable rates to municipalities of similar size to Drayton Valley. And the top graph is the residential rates. And so you can see that Drayton Valley kind of floats in the middle of the pack, not the lowest, not the highest. And the bottom is the non-residential. And although the town is not the highest in non-residential, it is definitely on the higher end of that spectrum. So that's going to be the relevant piece there for the later on conversation. And then in terms of the actual levy, it just compares the residential and non-residential in each of these towns. So the dark blue being the residential and the light blue being the non-residential. And so you can see how much more Drayton Valley earns off of commercial or non-residential versus residential, and how other towns compare. But very, very relevant conversation or perspective here is that some communities are they're maybe not bedroom communities, but they do have less commercial compared to residential. Drayton Valley's assessment base is more equally, as the bottom graph shows. This is very relevant, is the assessment. So the bottom graph shows the composition of assessment. So you can see that the town of Drayton Valley has more non-residential than almost all of the comparable. I think the only one that has higher ratio is Whitecourt. So we do have a lot of assessments coming from the non-residential, so it would make sense that we do have more tax levies or like revenue coming in from the non-residential portion, but perhaps not as big of a gap as we are at, which is what we'll talk about later. And then of course, this is the revenues and expenses per capita. At first you'll think like, how in the world we can't, a municipal budget's not allowed to have a deficit, but why are the expenses higher than the revenues? And that has amortization or depreciation as a non-cash expense in there. So most municipalities of similar size are very close to, if not where their expenses exceed their revenues. The one anomaly, two anomalies I guess, are Town of Rocky Mountain House and Whitecourt. Really wish to study their books further to see how they're able to accomplish this. And then there are the debt ratio. So the available, essentially it shows the borrowing capacity for municipalities. So Town of Drayton Valley has lots of borrowing capacity, a little higher than some of the municipalities, but borrowing capacity is not the ultimate indicator of the financial health of a municipality, because they could be borrowing on things they shouldn't be borrowing on, or spending on reserves where they should borrow. So it's not the ultimate factor, but it is a factor in determining how we're going to accomplish what we need to accomplish in the next 10 years. So 2025 achievements, I won't read these word for word, just highlighting a couple at the top of each section. So fire, we had the Memorial Park that got finished this year. The grand opening was, I think, late summer, early fall. I can't remember exactly when, but it was a really great event. As well as the new First Due Fire Department management system. That was a really big accomplishment in the fire department. For enforcement services, there was a lot of emergency management training this year, which was really great. And a lot of collaboration as well with other municipalities to help coordinate, especially for local business support in the event of another emergency. For ECDC, there's a bunch of facts here stated out, but we have 114 families with affordable childcare access, delivered Indigenous teachings to 42 children through Weyerhaeuser funding. And one thing I want to highlight about ECDC too, and I think council likely has heard this time and time again, but the manager, Bernice Taylor, she does an amazing job getting grant funding. So she's always out there making sure that she's working with businesses in town to get support so that the children can have above and beyond access to swimming lessons, all like field trips and really good nutrition program and all the like, and so that it doesn't end up affecting either the taxpayer or the families as much. So it's really great. For the pool, we enhanced staff training and improved programs to raise the standards. And we also provided community support during the teacher strike, so that I don't know who all here had kids that they had to find childcare for, but my kids went to the pool a lot during that time, and it was amazing, like how quickly they got this program together, and the kids absolutely loved it. So that was a really great community service that the municipality was able to offer. So really, really great. TAC and MCC. So specifically for the fitness center, they secured the Parkinson's our grant to get free Parkinson's exercise classes, which is really great. You have to think that our fitness center focuses a lot on accessible fitness opportunities. So this fits right in with that mandate, I guess, is that there's a lot of people that can't just go to a normal gym. And so we provide all kinds of opportunities for people that are either have any physical limitation, or a lot of seniors as well. So it's really, really great that way. And we're in the phase of like the engineering schematics for the ice plant, which is really exciting. So we should be hearing some more about that pretty soon here, I'm hoping, because that ice plant will need to be replaced I believe that it needs to be replaced by the end of next year, if I'm not mistaken. Is that right? Oh, he's working. Yes, it's right. Okay.
Elvira,
Yes.
can you just remind us how much money we have in reserves put away for the ice plant currently?
Yes, I think it's just about $500,000, but I will get you the exact amount. I'll just write a note here and I'll give you the exact amount.
Okay, yeah.
Okay,
670?
678, yeah.
670? And that's cost shared with the county?
The reserve is ours,
Oh, no,
our
like
contribution, but
like for the
the
ice
project?
plant? Yeah.
Yes, I don't know I don't know where we're at in the phase of like finalizing that agreement, but yes, it would be, because it is a cost shared facility. And so as long as we plan ahead with the county, they've always been really good at cost sharing.
And what is the total replacement or expenditure on that to upgrade the ice plant?
Oh, I don't know. I want to say like couple million.
Couple million? And we do have a grant.
Yeah, so the
application
grant, okay,
process.
it's been a while since I've reviewed this,
okay.
but the grant is, if we go, we have to contribute a certain amount, the county would contribute a certain amount, and then the grant would contribute a certain amount, but I'm just trying to remember, it's contingent on some green factors, like some energy efficiency factors. And so if we expand the project more, then we can get that one portion of the grant. If we don't expand it to meet those, then we would be limited to only one. There's two
Portion
different
of
grants
it, yeah.
happening. And so that's the decision that has to be made still. But yeah, if you want more specifics on that, it's not, yeah. We can get Troy down here to speak to it more if you want. It's not on 2026, but it will be coming as a conversation in 2026 for the 2027 budget.
Yeah, no, I was just kind of, I know that we had a meeting with the minister and we talked about that, the possibility of, there's a grant stream that's opening up on April 1st. And then there's a maximum, I think, up to $1.5 million. And I know that there's other municipalities that have applications going in for ice plants. So I know it's on next year's, but I'm just trying to do the math, if we have 670 put away and we're successful in that, right? And then there's that cost sharing with the county, right? That's all, I'm just
Yeah.
inquiring.
Well, and then if we can, I guess then the other question too is some grants we can stack
Yeah.
beyond just their grant, but FCM, GMF grants are sometimes a bit more stringent on that, but that's always a question we should ask, like, okay, so you're gonna give this much, can we supplement with maybe other
Yeah,
streams? I mean, there is not as many opportunities as there was for capital grants, but it's always, if the province has additional money that they want to throw in that, like,
right?
yeah. For a project that we know has to happen, that's
Yeah.
the best place to get grants instead of I mean, we like new buildings and new projects. I know, like, it's great, but we know this is something that we know is coming down the line, it's
urgency,
not an
yeah.
option. And so if we can get grants for those types of projects, that's best case scenario.
Thank you.
For community services, we, in 2026, we expanded our homelessness, our shelter funding by quite a bit, which is great. It covers security, full-time security now, which has eliminated a lot of the issues around the shelter pods, and the Resource Navigator, that's RDN funded. So overall, we're being funded very well for the unsheltered programs, which is great because a lot of communities don't have that. Maintenance, just a variety of repairs and upgrades around town, including roofs at the water treatment plant, reservoir building, Cadence Court. We have the resurfaced the pickleball court, so we finished that, painted it. That was all completed in 2026. And we also poured new concrete paths in the ECDC yard. There was some landscaping and some maintenance or upgrades done. And then for public works, the weed spraying, we established the weed spraying program. And some councillors will remember how many years we've had that conversation around weed spraying, whether to do it or not. We did a lot of stormwater improvements, ditching, that kind of thing. We just found multiple issues that needed to be repaired, so that happened in 2026. Utilities, I guess the biggest thing with utilities is like the ongoing, we making sure that we still have water in our faucets and we can flush our toilets. That's the biggest thing. But we did the main valve operating project, so replacing 3 valves with 7 more planned, and then repairing 34 CCs in-house. Is Shelley here?
Yes, she is.
I don't know what that entails, but it sounds very impressive. I'm sure it is. We started the project for the Murrah Pond expansion. So this year it included desludging, which is a necessary first step to expansion, and hydrant flushing and winterizing. For IT, we worked with moving staff around. That's, believe it or not, a huge project. So we moved everyone from CTC to Public Works and then provided support for the change. When Roots of Resilience came in, there was a lot of support that needed to happen so that they had access to everything and they could just run their school. And we also worked on expanding this camera security network. For finance, I mean, I've said this so many times, so council knows it very well, but we started the process of implementing our new ERP. And essentially in 2026, it was all like building the GL structure and starting the process of deciding what we wanted and where we wanted it and all that kind of stuff. And then we went live a couple weeks ago, and Connor can tell you all about how fun that's been. Communications, we did the 2024 annual report. I don't know who else had the chance to see it, but it was very, very nicely done. It looked amazing. I'm sure it was worthy of an award. I don't know if we applied for it or not.
We did, but I haven't heard back.
Yeah. And then elections. That was a huge event that happened in 2025. So you all know about that. So those are the highlights. I know some of them sounded more impressive than others, but if you look through everything, single thing here, you can see how busy the town was and all the staff were in 2025. And so now we get back to the operating budget. And so there has been some changes to the operating budget. So really, I want to focus on the changes, but we'll go over what the budget looks like right now. And then we'll go over the changes, and then we can have essentially discussions after that. Then what I want to do is bring up my long-term planning and just show council what the various, what a 1% increase in taxes will do for the next 10 years. If you do 1% a year, 2%, whatever, how that affects our 10-year plan. And then also talking in detail about how any of the assessment and tax changes will impact the residential and non-residential organization here in town. So let's start with the operating budget by expense type. And so in the proposed budget, we have the municipal taxes increasing along with the requisition. So I did email the information yesterday. I think you should have received it, but our requisitions increased by 323,000. Yeah, that's how it works. The province can do that. It's just unfortunate because it feels like it's always the town that ends up having to bear the brunt of the frustrations of the residents, because they don't understand that we're doing it on behalf of the province. But anyway, so the 300,000 increase that we need to leverage from the current and existing tax base is already there just based on what the province is doing. So $300,000 increase. Now think of, we were wanting to do a $300,000 increase, if you remember, 339,000. So that's how it goes and that's how it works. I know that there's a lot of lobbying, a lot of advocacy happening to try to change how that works with the province, because it just feels really harsh and unexpected when we've worked hard on budget, try to make sure, we want to impact the resident as little as possible and service, provide the same services, and then bam, their taxes increase by a certain amount without us doing anything, without any of it coming to us. So it can be really frustrating when the changes just happen so drastically. So that's an aside. But anyway, so I had to put that revenue into our municipal tax line because we have to collect that, and then it goes into requisition. So it's an in and an out. It does not affect our budget.
So it's an in and
at all.
out, yeah.
There is a small increase on top of that, as I explained, and we'll go into more detail based on a few changes that have happened since the interim budget. So before, we were increasing our net revenue that we were collecting by 2.5%. Right now, with the changes, of course, we can discuss all this, we can change it. Right now, as it sits, it's 3.91%, I believe. So that's just from the changes that have happened since the interim, that some of them are unexpected to me anyways, unexpected to administration at this point. So we will go over those in more detail, but I just wanted to note that that is why the proposed taxes have increased from the interim budget.
So if it's an in and out
Yeah, it's an in and out for us
for us,
as the organization.
yeah. And then it's reflected in the school tax portion though, not the municipal portion.
Correct.
So when we show the little
Yeah,
graph that we'll show every year, we'll be very clear that it's,
yeah, it is. I think last year was like the first year in my time where it was an enormous increase that happened at this time of the year. We'd already passed budget. And so, and it didn't just happen here, across the province. And I think that a lot of municipalities focused on educating the public on that. So I do think we've come some way now where people are starting to understand how that works. And so I do think that communicating and educating is important. It can feel sometimes like every year it's the same thing all over again, but I do think that people are understanding it more. So yeah, it gets communicated. It's, what our portion is and what goes to the province, so they can see that.
so then you mentioned a
9.1.
3.91, and that's changed because of the requisition?
No, the 3.91 is what our tax revenues are increasing by. So that's the net. So our tax revenues are increasing by that. That's what we have right now. Again, like this is draft. We can change it if council has changes that they want to make. But that's where it is at right now based on, so we had the 2.5% at
Yeah.
the interim budget, which was 339,000. And we had to increase that by 191,000. So we had to increase our tax, what we were bringing in, by 500,000, 531,000 in total. That is a 3.91 increase from last year.
But it has nothing to do with the school tax
No,
requisition?
that is what we're increasing it by.
Yeah,
The province is increasing it by their own amount. So
yeah.
that's above and beyond. That's the hard part about this, the difficult decision is councils always have to make the decision of like, are we going to cut ours back in favor of the government? But it's really not strategically smart to do that. But councils have been put in that position over and over again to try to alleviate the burden on the resident because we know we're the ones collecting it, even though it's really a flow through.
Yeah.
But it feels hard for council to make a decision
Yeah.
like that, right?
So what percentage did you project? Like, I know last year's budget and this year's budget, you kind of were estimating what the school tax would be, and I think you allowed us a bit of a cushion.
I did have an increase of 175,000 or something like
For
that
this
already
year?
in there, yes,
Okay.
accounted for. So when we talked about the increases, I did have some increase, but not enough.
Okay.
And that just comes into play when we talk about like, the average residential is gonna see an increase in $100 a year or $200 a year. That's where that conversation comes into play. Yeah.
Any other questions? Go ahead, Brandon.
I guess maybe we should start off with that. Do you know what that increase is for the provincial side and then what that increase would be on our side?
Yes, so the increase for the residents is $199 a year, but I can tell you, based on an assumption I'm making about what council wants to do in terms of residential versus non-residential.
Of course, yeah.
So I have
No, I
to,
understand, yeah.
because we had talked about potentially doing a zero for.
Commercial?
Non-residential, and then having the residential
Pick up the rest.
pick up the whole lot of it, just to bring those two
Closer.
closer together. I'll come bring back here.
So that's 190
That's,
approximately per residential.
yes,
And that's for both. That's for both ours and the school?
yes.
Okay, so then the school would be approximately out of that $80.
I think
and we'd be
64,
about
if I remember. I think
110.
64
64?
a year for the average residential. But that's, so we will go into a lot more detail on that because council can do whatever they want between residential and non-residential. A lot of times we've done the same. We've done the same percent increase for both or, just to keep it consistent. But if you do want to move these closer together, then we can do
Have to
where,
change it.
And so this estimate is based on the residential eating pretty much almost the entire tax increase and the non-residential having just a slight impact. But I don't know if council wants to do that. That's just based on conversation we've had, and I can change that up on the fly. So this is just the notes that I had written yesterday when I sent this to you so that you could have some idea of where it is at. So we can bring those closer together. So I will get more into detail. We'll just quickly go through this and then we'll bring that up and we can start talking about the impact. And then we can go back to potentially projects and what council wants to do, or what they're comfortable doing. Other than that, the expenses as a ratio of each other stayed very similar. The revenue stayed the same outside of taxes. I didn't change anything there. Salaries and wages increased ever so slightly due to some organizational changes that happened this year. Contract in general changed along with the salaries and wages. So with my position changing to contract. And then I think that the only other change was some repairs because of a pump failure in the reservoir. So those are the only expenses that change. Everything else stayed the same. And so that's why I increased tax revenue so that we could still balance our budget. Not knowing that I didn't have information from council to make any other changes as was.
So there's a slight increase to transfer to reserves as well, I see here for operating?
Not it from prior year, yes, but not from the interim budget that we discussed. It's the same amount.
I thought the proposed was 921,953 and here it's 1 million?
Well, we had that second conversation. It ended up being 102,176, 1 million.
Oh,
Yeah. And I think I'm going to now bring up the spreadsheet so that we can talk more specifically on that. I think that'll be very helpful for council to.
and where's that in our?
This spreadsheet,
Yeah.
it's not in here
Oh,
because it's changing as I go.
oh, that one.
So. Yeah, right now, as I go. Oh, that, yeah, very helpful. So this is where,
I can't see,
can-
yeah. Oh, I
Too
still
much.
can't see. I can't see, yeah. It's like a migraine, I can't see past my hand.
I don't think we need these numbers. I love it, I love it. Okay, so right off the bat, you can see that the average residential went from, average residential home assessment went from 283 to 301. It's so interesting how quickly that's changed over the years. I
Right.
think a few years ago, it was like 250, the average. But it also, in a sense, does make sense because all the new homes are being built are big homes, right? Or bigger or on the more expensive side of this, so it's pulling that average up. So that's right off the bat, we have an increase in the assessment. And this is why we don't have to change our rates to accomplish the tax increase. But all that means is just that their assessment's increasing instead of the rate. For them, it's the same impact. It is easier because we don't control assessments, but we do control the rates. So we could decrease the rates if the assessment increases. That's an option council does have. And the average commercial, they ended up being almost the same. And so we have about 13, from what I'm seeing, there's about 13 more commercial properties, which I have not talked to our assessor about yet. I've just inputted these numbers, so these could change slightly once I actually top to bottom scrub this spreadsheet. And 3 new homes in 2023, or 25. So that always, when there is growth that way, it always alleviates some pressures as well, right? There's more people, more homes paying that tax bill. And so with the way I've inputted it, would be a 6.83% on the average residential and a 1.97 on the commercial. Essentially, the commercial or I shouldn't say commercial, non-residential tax rate would actually decrease, which would accomplish council's goal of bringing those tax rates closer together and potentially could help with some growth in the community. I don't know that we need commercial growth. I don't know what the demand is for commercial growth necessarily, but it could definitely help with helping businesses out there and alleviating some tax pressures that way. So that's the average residentials would increase by $199 a year, and the average commercial would be $358 a year, and $1,662 monthly, and $29 monthly. Yeah, so that's that. And so this next piece will be like crazy. You won't understand what's going on. I will understand what's going on there, but my computer screen is shared, so you're gonna have to bear with me here. So it's increasing the residential by 0%. We'd keep the mill rates the same, and a note, we kept the mill rates the same last year as well because of assessment increases. So the rates, 7.5417 or whatever it is, it's staying the same, and we would be decreasing the non-residential by 6.22%. So keep that in mind while we go over some other things. How about, unless you have any questions right now on this? And this is incorporating the school requisitions as well. This is the whole impact to the taxpayer. These are the changes for schools requisitions only. As you will see that the impact to the around residential is a lot higher, but the rate, the same as our rates are higher for non-residential, the provinces are as well. Okay, let's go to. And so the other thing that I think we never talked about in the interim that I thought I wanted council to see is I have this very crude spreadsheet, but it works. I don't spend a lot of time formatting it, but I wanted the information to be seen here. And it's just the main categories of our expenses. So wages, professional general, repairs, insurance, RCMP, supplies and utilities, and how they've changed throughout the year. And so you can see here the change from 2017. If you see it's 27, 19, 10.88, and you see the insurance is smaller because we negotiated last year. We got it down by quite a lot, which is great. That's the only reason that's actually this low of an increase. And the other low one on this, on average here, is repairs. And like I've said before, repairs is the one that we can control out of all of these. We can control professional general as well, but more so repairs. And so that's the reason why we see that, is that we're like, well, we'll just push this off another year, or we won't repair this, or we won't upgrade this, and things like that. But wages, yeah, sure, it's somewhat in our control, somewhat out of our control. And then the big one is RCMP, of course. This is one that always is hard to swallow when you see how much it's increased. And supplies and utilities. So utilities, you know, we can't really control the rates. We can negotiate contracts to an extent. It's more timing of when we lock into contracts that is the biggest factor here, which actually saved us from, we would have had more extreme increases, but we locked into a contract at the right time in 2021, I believe. And so that actually saved us from a lot of increases. What we can control is the energy efficiency part and making sure that we're on top of that. And it has saved us a lot over the years. And then here's the taxes. So you can see, of course, that they're trailing behind the average of the other expenditures. But the main thing I wanted you to note on tax revenues is that this was the tax revenues in 2017. And then we had decrease for 2 years, 19 and 20. And then we had all these increases. Can you see where my mouse is? Sorry, yeah? So you have 2021 increase, all the way to here. And so these are sometimes hard to accept and think about. But if you look down here, had we done a 2.5 increase every single year, just inflation really, inflation changes year over year, but average 2.5 is pretty acceptable. If we'd increased revenues from 2017 by 2.5 every single year, we would be at 14,600,000. We're still 488 shy of what we would have been, even with 2 back-to-back 8% years and a 5% year increase. So the reason why I show this is that how important it is to that tax revenues go in the same direction as expenses, because they accumulate one year over another. And so it is really important to do marginal increases every year rather than some decreases or holds, and then you have to do big increases other years. Drayton Valley is not unique in that. Lots of other municipalities find themselves in the same position, but that's just a graph I always show to say why it's really, really important to plan for and just increase as expenses are increasing. And right now we're in a position where we don't just need to increase with expenses, we also need to increase to have some to put aside to put in reserves for projects. So we have that as well, that we need to plan for. And so that's just something that I like to show so that council can kind of visualize it better. I thought I had I do have some graphs. Yeah, that's just the expenses, but yeah. And then, so yeah, 3.91% is the increase right now. I brought this up so that we could put things in and out so council can visualize the tax rate if they want. And then I also have updated reserves. So I have updated the opening balances. If you have your interim budget spreadsheet, I don't know if you have it, but you'll see some updates here because we're essentially at the point where I know what the wrapped up ending 2025 reserve balances will be, because we're at that point in the year end. Auditors could potentially make a change, unlikely. So which is really great. We've come a long ways when it comes to reserves, a long ways. Like we were like, I want to say at 8 or 9 million a few years ago. So like it is a long ways, but the important thing to note is that the 3.5 million of that is already committed to projects. So it's not money that council can spend, but it does sit in a reserve because it is a savings essentially. Mm-hmm. But the money has already been allocated to specific projects. But other than that, yeah, so you see in 2026, we would end in a $15 million balance. But if I took the capital fund out for projects we've already spent on, oh shoot, that's not right. And you'd have 11 million. So we're moving in the right direction. I would like to see reserve transfers per year be about 2 million. I think that'd be a healthy thing to aim for. We're at 1, so that obviously is a big goal, mm-hmm. But I do believe that that is an achievable goal with long-term planning and with the service level reviews that we're doing. We can make those changes internally that we can focus on saving the extra money. And then I'd also have scheduled reserves. It just shows a few more years out. So in 2027, we do have some expenditures and projects happening. So the reserves go down and then start going back up again. And I just want to show you one more thing before and then we can open up some deliberations. Right. I do not want to update Cody. So this is sorry? I know, I don't know, no, I don't know what's going to happen if I do say update. That's the problem.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't understand.
exactly.
I didn't even touch it.
She's listening.
They're always listening.
Whoa. Yeah. Tell me. Okay, so this is the 10-year capacity graph. It is very healthy looking.
Can we zoom in, please?
Oh, of course we can.
Big zooming in.
Big zoomies.
One more. There we go.
So the green line is our reserves. So we do have it set up. I do have this projection set up so that if we dip below a certain amount, then we borrow instead to make sure our reserves stay within a certain amount. So we do want this to stay between 10 and 20 always. And then these here, so the dark blue, that's 75% of our debt limit, and the light blue is 65. So that's an internal thing we've come up with, saying like, we don't want to go beyond. What? It just glitched. We don't want to go, like, we can go further, we don't want to. So the aim is for this debt to never go below the light blue graph. And then, yeah, this is the difference in between the net debt. So that is good. There has been times where we've had a big project or where reserves were really low and where we had to borrow. And these went really, and I will say too, we had projected to borrow on the 2 fire trucks that were approved these last couple of years, but we are not borrowing on them after all because the county is buying them and we're cost sharing with them instead because they have I can't remember, is Tom here? They have a cheaper way to maintain them, is that right? She's like, she's not saying it right.
Finance trying to explain that.
Yeah.
So basically all of our equipment, whether it's town or county owned, goes to the county for repair and maintenance. And there's an advantage to that. Number one, they can provide service to us 24/7, 365, which is what we need. The other advantage is that they can do CVIPs on all the vehicles, so we don't have to send our truck out to a private company to get that done, which is pretty substantial when you're looking at about $800 per truck. So we save money by doing it this way.
Oh, wow. Thank you, County.
Absolutely.
Bart.
So the way typically, if I had done the debenture or the loan, that would have been a loan instead of a debenture through RBC because of our relationship and just knowing that like who we are as an organization, they would have lent us the money to cost share to the county. But typically that's not allowed. If you don't own it, you don't get to borrow on something you don't own. You don't get to borrow to give somebody money to buy something. As a general
Yeah.
policy. So AFCA, which is what the provincial borrowing, they weren't going to. The RBC would have, but because we did have some room in our unrestricted surplus, the decision was made to just switch it out and borrow on something else in the next couple of years, just to balance it out. And then also, I'm just trying to think, we do have some big borrowing coming up for potentially for the water treatment plants, we might see that changing depending on how much grants we get. So I just wanted council to see that, and this is a lot. I know it's a lot, and I'd see if I can do one more.
see it
Okay. But really what I wanted council to see here is this, the 14 million is where we're going, potentially seeing 2025 end and 2026 begin. And then here's where you see 15 million down to 12, 14, 14, and this is down all the way to 2035, 6, the 18 million. Of course, sometimes at the end there, like, oh yeah, but there's always unknowns, you know what I mean? You're like, whoa, we'll have 18 million, right? So,
So what are we
but it is
saying?
good, it is trending good.
So what are we saying we'll have at the end of this year, just because we can't see this side of the room?
Yeah, it is too small, 15 million.
15 million.
15,149,616 is if things change, if things remain exactly the way this budget
Yeah.
is presented, it would be 15 million. So this line here is the operating fund, so whatever is in here is the unrestricted. So we will see this change with the new reserve policy. We will see some of these amounts allocated to specific reserves and not stay here. So, but it won't change the net. It'll just change how they're distributed within. And so we always want to make sure that in any given year, the amount we need to spend, we bring in that year. With some exceptions, sometimes we do from reserves, right? But that's what we want to make sure, that this amount shouldn't significantly decrease, because that means that we're relying on reserves rather than actually funding what we're spending in any given year. So that's all I wanted to say. I guess the point to this whole shebang is that it feels like a really tough decision in a time when things are already, costs are escalating all over the place. But some very tough decisions in the past 4 years have really, really gotten us in a lot better position already. My goal from this position is to do manageable changes and predictable changes rather than a one-off, and you have to do big increases. So that's really the biggest thing I wanted to communicate, and that on the grand scheme of things, once the service level reviews will be done and once some more accurate information is inputted into our 10-year capital plan from our asset management software, these will change a little, but we have come a long ways in the last couple of years. And so that is the hope in this, is that it does improve when you make hard decisions, hard choices. It's not wasted on the organization and administration on the impact that has. And if council would like to go to page, would you want, like, I did send the exact changes from the interim to the final budget to you yesterday, or I sent them to our acting CEO. I'm hoping she sent them out. I'm not hoping, I know she did. Send them out. I'm hoping you read them. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're doing two things at once? No, that's okay. That's okay. So I won't go over position specific, but I'll go over the general results. So from the organizational changes that happened in January, we have an increase to our wages by 108,000. The change in the structure of my job and Connor's job, and that is saving us 14,000 this year, which save us more next year. But because I did work for part of the year, there'd be bigger savings next year, as well as with the changes from the organizational changes, there would be future savings, but I'm just talking 2026. And then other unexpected changes. So we had, we found out earlier this year, maybe a month ago, I don't know, maybe 2 months ago, that the way we're paying for when volunteer firefighters get called out, and let's say it's like a false alarm where they don't need to go, or it's less than an hour, we pay them an hour. And we found out that we are required to pay them a minimum of a certain amount. I can't remember, is it $40? 45, I think I said 40 in here, or 3 hours. And so that's the change we're making, and that's impacting the budget by $35,000. So 76,000, and then half of that's the county's cost. And then the reservoir pump replacement, which is, it is actually gonna cost more than 60,000. If you look in the details, I think it was 70 or 75,000, but the team believes that they can absorb the rest in with their normal operating budget. And so we're requesting $60,000 extra for that reservoir pump replacement. So those are all the changes. The net change and the net impact to taxes, 191,000. And adding that to the 539 we had already put in the interim, that's a net increase in tax revenues by 531,000, which is a 3.91 increase from last year.
Ryan, do you have a question?
Yeah, so just note 3 on the support specialist. So the education coordinator position was removed initially, and now it's back. So that was a position that
Yeah.
was taken out, then it was put back.
Correct. So.
And do we have someone in that position right now?
No, there's nobody in that position right now. I don't know if this is a conversation for an open council meeting or not.
Okay.
What do you think?
Okay.
Yeah,
So with that being said, any of the notes, if we were to move into closed, that are about employees or anything to do with HR, are there any other noted numbers maybe that we could later talk about?
yeah, we can talk about all the employee-specific things in closed, for
Okay.
sure.
Okay,
And then really the only other thing is the volunteer firefighters and the pump. Those are
Okay.
the only other two changes. And so really the biggest impact is the organizational changes. And so if you want to talk specifically on it, we should move into closed. Do you have a FOIP section?
29, 1A and B. My favorite.
sure. Let's do that.
Okay, yeah, then we can have a better
Do
discussion
you have the
after.
motion, Ryan, there from yesterday? Anybody who's? Oh, Brandon, do you want to go ahead?
Before we move into closed, I guess I do have a couple of other questions. So I'm on the Drayton Valley Library Board, and I know that they had already come ahead and they had asked for a I believe it was $7,000 increase. Do you know if that's encapsulated within our budget?
You mean in their normal operating request?
That's correct?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Okay, good. Additionally, I'm also on the Yellowhead Regional Library Board, and they're also going to be requesting, now they haven't yet, but I know that they wanted us to bring it forward so that we are aware of it, that they will be presenting and asking for an increase. I don't believe that that will be impacting us in 2026, because I don't think we pay for them until the end of the year, but something to, I guess, be aware of for 2027.
Did they have a percent or no? Well, I'm sure we'll hear about it, but did you know about how much?
They did have they had I don't know, they had a percentage / a dollar amount, but I think the dollar amount was like 75 cents or something, like it
Yeah.
wasn't significant, 85 cents, sorry, is what it was, 85 cents increase, so,
Per capita?
per capita, yeah.
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 Yeah, I don't think that, thank you for the information. Likely that's going to be coming to us this year for
Yeah,
next year.
Of course, yeah.
Either way, likely not something we need to
Worry about.
necessarily worry about right
Nope.
now. Not,
Yep.
I don't want to worry about, but
No,
it's
of
just something
course.
we probably can just
Yep.
absorb if it is that minor.
Mm-hmm.
It is a fairly, on the grand scheme of library costs, the Yellowhead is a lot smaller, the cost to them.
No, I know that, yeah.
So even a small increase, it's more manageable to absorb, but yeah, but the increase that the library board asked for, it is in the interim budget.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. And then additionally, I am wondering, do we have a cost on what Cause for Critters, like, do we pay into Cause for Critters on a yearly basis? Do we know what that cost is per year?
Yes. We do help them with operating. We've changed a lot of the structure of how that's set up. Like sometimes we've paid more for like operating and then we pay like vet bills and that kind of stuff. So I don't know exactly the breakdown of that. But I can tell you what we're budgeting for.
Sure.
Cause for Critters. So we also own the building,
Yep.
and so we have the utilities costs. Sorry, that is not meant for you to follow, but you can if you try if you want to. And some building maintenance, and then 29,400.
Okay, that's for the whole thing.
That's for, yes, that's the contract for animal control rooms.
Oh, okay, yeah, yeah.
And
And then we would also have the building costs and so
Yeah,
forth on
correct.
top, okay.
So our total animal control, I'll tell you, it's probably about 40 grand that we pay for, like, in general, not just to cost for critters, but animal control. Oh, 50.
Okay. Additionally, do you have a projected loss on what the ECDC is going to be for this year?
Yes. It's 85,000, I think.
85?
Yeah.
Okay,
That's a cash flow, so that is including debt repayment.
yep,
So, otherwise, it would be 6,000.
okay. And then affordable housing.
Okay,
I know this will probably be brought up and closed, but I just wanted to,
we actually ended the year, although the maintenance part is not being accurately
Yes,
recorded,
track,
but
yeah.
outside of that, we actually did put some money back into reserves in 2025, so that is, yeah.
very nice.
It is amazing, and we're also increasing it marginally.
Yep.
And so we approved that, I can't remember exactly when, but we have to give them, obviously with lease renewals, we have to give them time. So throughout the year, I think in June, okay, we do them all at the same time now. They'll be increasing, so just to make sure that we're keeping up with costs.
Yeah,
And so so we're budgeting for 23,000 to be made on top of the debt repayment, so
Okay.
23 to be put back into reserves in 2026. Yeah, it's some years there's unexpected things, which we know, but just to have year after year after year of that is very difficult. But it is very good news that in 2025, we did we're able to pay our debt payments and put some money back, pay off some of that reserve
That's nice.
draw. So really good news.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and then a couple more. So the Clean Energy Tech Center, do we have an estimated amount for this year? I know we were reviewing some of that over the last little while here, and so I believe we're netting out?
No,
Okay, not yet.
not unless there's changes that I haven't been told about.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. Nope, sounds great.
So potentially, maybe some of the wages maybe can be moved,
Sure.
but that just means, it's not savings, it just means somebody else is paying for it.
Yeah, of
It's
course.
just a portion. No, actually, that's event wages. We can't move those if
No,
we're
of
gonna have
course not.
events.
If we're gonna have events, yeah.
But right now, it's 158, but it has come from 292. So
Yeah.
we are it is going in the right direction for sure in terms of breaking even.
Yeah,
But that's where we're at right now, and so, yeah, that's what the budget's at, is 158.
okay, and then, my last question is, what is budgeted for flower expense for the next year?
I don't think it's just there's nothing above and beyond, it's just the normal parks, but let me see.
Do we know what, that amount is?
No, for flowers, there's nothing for flowers. Oh, there is a special project for sports fields, but that's not a aesthetics type of thing, it's in parks? Oh, yeah. But what's budgeted to be spent in 2020? Oh, not in supplies. Pears? P&G? Where the heck are the flowers? Oh, there. No, nothing.
It is, just that's the special project. There's another one.
Oh, yeah.
It's under boulevards.
Is it under boulevards? We've moved these a few times in the. 30.
Okay, sounds good. And then I guess I can make a motion.
I just think we have a couple more questions. Okay, Farrell, did you have another one? No, I want to talk about conservators. Oh, okay, sure. Go ahead, Brandon.
Okay, I move that council move into closed session according to ATIA Section 29(1) A and B at 10:02 a.m.
I'll now call the motion. All in favor? That is carried. Okay, we are back. We are moved out of closed. Councillor Brooks had moved us out of closed, and we'll jump back into discussion. When we're looking at the operating project list, any changes there? No? Okay, where would you like to go next?
Okay, so we're going to look at this overview now. And so previously, we had talked about a 3.91% change in tax revenues, and since then, we've added these three items that are important projects that should be happening in 2026, and that brings us to a 4.86% interest, so that would be a slightly less than 5% decrease in non-residential rates and a 0% change in residential rates. What that means is that the assessments are increasing by enough that it naturally increases our tax revenues enough to cover this increase. So if we look at our taxes, so we need to raise 660. Let's see. Oh. So about 4.72% decrease in non-residential. Because again, the assessments decrease in the rates, because the assessments are increasing enough that we can decrease the rates to, and still have an increase in our taxes. So that's where we're at right now. What that means for,
I have a headache. I'm like, what?
yeah, I know it's a lot, but what that means for the average, this is what it means for the average residential and the average commercial or non-residential. So the average residential will see a 199.
Oh, can we zoom in, please? No, this side of the room is like needing glasses. Okay,
So what that means, if this is, again, we can make changes.
Oh,
We'll
yeah,
just
yeah.
start from
So
here.
this is
We'll go
right
back
now,
and then
yeah.
we'll come back. So right now, this means that we'll see a 199.41 increase in residential
A year?
a year, 1662 a month, and 589.95 for the average non-residential commercial, and with a $49 increase a month. Yes,
Okay, Ryan?
And that's with the increase to the education,
correct,
because that's a massive increase.
correct.
Okay.
Okay, so can you repeat that?
So like the increase to the education fee that the province has put in, that's including that, because that's a massive amount that the province has increased the educational fee.
Yeah, so this is,
And we have no choice over that.
yeah, so this is including that.
This is all in.
So for the average commercial, the increase is almost just the education.
Okay, so if we were to communicate this to the public, what would be our portion?
Of the increase,
Yeah,
it would be 4.86% is what our revenues are increasing by,
4.86?
yes.
4.x, that's for us, and then what's the percentage? That's a 0% mill rate increase. And
Yeah,
that's a zero.
it's just increasing our revenues.
Decrease on commercial properties, 0.7%.
just bringing our rates closer together.
Yes, so decreasing our non-residential mill rate by 4.7%, 0% on residential, and the rest of the increase.
So, oh yeah, if you could use your
Sorry, I
mic.
should be using my mic.
Yes, please.
So there's a 4.7% decrease in commercial or non-residential mill rate, 0% increase in residential mill rate, and then the rest of the increase is coming on from the assessed value, and then the property, or sorry, the provincial increase that they're bringing across.
Okay, so how would we, in grade 5 language, communicate that to the community to say, because they're not going to hear any of that. They're going to say 199 a year is what the town, and 589 is what? So how are we breaking it down? How are we showing that
That's easy.
simple language? Yes? How is it?
You tell them, we're not increasing your taxes and we're reducing the commercial tax. And that's all you tell them, because we're not doing anything with the mill rate. And as far as the school tax goes, that's not us.
I'm just going to go to Jen first.
There's probably several ways you can do this. I always find in my years of doing this, it's very complicated trying to explain how taxes work to just the average person. And even like when I first started here, we all pay taxes, but you don't. It's like, well, how does that work? So I think we just need to be very clear with them, like, because of your increase in assessed value of your home, which we don't control, you are going to see an increase. That's why. But this is how much, the province is putting on you for that. And this is how much the town is putting on you for that. Some people are going to get that, and some people just, because they're bottom line, they will see an increase. They're not gonna like it, and they don't necessarily care that it's us or the province or whatever. So we just need to be prepared to have that grade 5 language to explain it to them. But for some people, there's an increase and they're just gonna be upset about it no matter what.
So if I was a certain resident and I was going to go on Facebook and I was going to say, this isn't really what's happening, this is where actually our taxes are going up, what percent?
If we very specifically say rates, then I mean, yes, people can still do that. They can look at their own taxes, but all they know is what the rates change by, what their assessment changed by. They don't know averages and stuff like that. So we've tried it a lot of different ways. We've tried being just what Councillor Brooks was saying, just talk about rates. We've tried doing like bigger picture, and I find it's confusing nevertheless, no matter what you do. But I do think, in my opinion, I think that you can't go wrong with educating the public a little bit on how it works. But it's, I think, a decision on council on how you want to communicate it. I would say, I would say we should touch on the provincial side, not so much because not so much to to release the burden on us, even though it would help, but also it is important for people to know what's going to the province. It's important to know how that works, and like keeping the province accountable when you're talking about decreasing taxes and stuff like that. It's like, okay, what does that mean? It just is a piece of the picture that people, if they don't have that piece, then they just make their assumptions. And so that's in the communication decision. But I think I've seen more municipalities just speak solely on what our tax revenues are changing by and leaving everything behind. But that's totally up to council. Just saying, we're increasing in order to meet the 2026 budget, we had to leverage an extra 4.8% in revenues. We had to increase our tax revenues by 4.86% to meet the 2026 budget needs. That's what I see more often. I don't know if that is the right decision or not, but I would definitely highlight, but I do think that if we're going to decrease the commercial rates, I do think it's important to highlight that. I do think that's an important, because that's to kick off that boost in what we're hoping is going to be an assistance to businesses. So I would highlight that, and I would definitely highlight the provincial piece. And in terms of rates, if we want to say, hey, we were able to meet this with, because of assessment increases, we were able to do this and this and this, you could do that. But I find the more information, it might be more confusing. But Jen can probably, I don't want to make more work for Jen, but maybe she can have a couple options or something, more information, less information. I don't know. I don't want to put that on Jen either, but seeing that this is this council's first information release on, final budget, maybe that's a decision council can make together, but that's, yeah.
Yeah, I'm happy to put forward some options if council wants to consider that. Like I said, there's several ways to go about this, and even yourselves, when you're out talking in the community, you might have your own way of trying to explain that, and everybody's gonna have different questions. So I can help navigate that as well. And typically what we have done more recently with Alvera and I is like, this is how much your taxes, or this is how much your taxes are going up for the year, for the month. This is how much is going to the province for different items. And we try to break that down in a pie chart, like this is your whole tax amount. But like last year, it was like 25% of your tax bill is actually leaving this community for, to go to the province. Just to try to help with that education piece, because that is a big part of it. And then I also like to try to highlight what our capital and operating projects are for the year, so that there's some idea of value for money, like, because we always hear this, like, my taxes are going up, what are we getting for that? And then so it's just this quick, like, well, we're doing these things, like, even things that the community are like especially happy about, like fireworks, or some of those, like, oh, cool, we're gonna do that now. Just, it's that education piece. But yeah, we can definitely tackle it a few different ways, and we can put out more FAQs, or try to help council navigate some of those conversations too.
Farrell?
Do you have a trend on the last 10 years of assessment values?
It would take me 5 minutes to get. You want to call a break?
I would be, yeah, it doesn't need to be this instant, but I would be curious to see over the last, like 10-ish or whatever is kind of reasonable,
Open.
of how assessment rates have changed. Like
Yeah, let me just open 2016's.
Sure.
So it won't be every single year, but then we can see where we've come from since then.
Sure.
If I can find where Clayton had it, or Kevin, or whoever was here.
Kevin.
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 Yeah. We had a Kevin.
You know what? I was wrong. Look at,
What?
You got charts for everything.
it's actually, we are back to where we were in 2016.
What?
Crazy.
That was the boom. That was the boom still, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was it?
While we were coming out of.
Coming out of the boom.
Yeah.
We were on the tail end,
House
yeah.
prices were high. Remember those days?
Yes.
Yep, 2014 days.
Yeah.
That's why I'm curious, because it really does play a huge part in
Yeah.
the formula. Like ultimately, there's the value of your house. It's the same as the value of a thing you're gonna buy. And then there's, call it the tax rate
Yeah.
that we put on it, but we don't set this price.
No, we don't, yeah.
And so for
Yeah.
me, that's the biggest piece I'm always talking to people is we didn't change our percent from last year. This might change, but we didn't change that. And yes, we choose to use that and not change our rate, but ultimately, we're not changing our
Yeah.
tax rate.
Because when your assessments increase, not always, because real estate is kind of a tricky thing to predict.
Yes.
But sometimes, and what we've seen in the last few years, it has come at the same time as our cost increasing. So the assessment have went up, but we've also, our prices have also went up. Everything has went up. So it kind of went hand in hand. It doesn't always. But it
But
did
I think
happen
that speaks
like
to
that.
a balance sometimes too,
Yeah.
that it's like our town costs to operate have gone up a little bit, but so has the value of your
Right.
house. And so
You can
things,
sell it for
we're
more now.
actually on target, on track with the community and where we're at.
Sure.
Yeah.
So if I would
Can you
do a
video
trend,
like that with your cups too, to
can.
explain?
Yes.
I can do a
It's that
trend,
simple.
but
It's
I know what the trend is gonna look like. It's gonna go from 2016, it'll go down, 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 down.
Yeah, and now it's
And then it will slowly go back up.
Up, up, up.
So it's funny, that's funny, I didn't even open 2016s at the beginning of this. I just saw that it had went back over 300 and I'm like, whoa, that's crazy, but we were over 300 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Wow. I know there's a couple of people ahead of you, Cody, I see you, yeah.
And then the other thing is, I think it's worth a conversation, I mentioned it earlier, but talking about separating out the tax assessment, like when residents get their
Yeah.
tax assessment notice. So you can tell them their price of their coffee cups way ahead of time. So it's like, here's your coffee cup, this is what it's gonna cost. You're gonna know, and if it goes up, then even if we don't change our rate, which is a separate program, then it's still going to go up because your coffee cup
Yeah.
price has went up.
I always, whenever we've thought about that, there's always been two factors that has never pushed this conversation further. One being capacity. It's a project that
Yes.
has to happen to release, to make sure, at that. And then B is like, will council now have 2 times that they get negative press in a few months term? That's always been the other factor, is like, are we gonna have people that are upset now and then again when the rates come out or not? But I do think that bigger cities all do it.
Well, I think it separates us because that isn't us. We don't get to pick. We don't
Yeah,
set this.
that's
It,
right,
like,
yeah.
It's comes from another company. It's like
Yeah.
them being mad at us for the EPCOR bill. I'm like, I don't pick the EPCOR bill. Like, it's not,
Yeah.
I don't set that rate.
Yeah,
So-
totally. Yeah, we can definitely talk about it. We should probably talk about it again for next year because we have kind of talked about it a bit here and there. And for those reasons, it's never come further, but it's
I think at least
entirely
what
a
it
thing.
would take. If it
Yeah.
takes a lot of it, I want to know if it would take admin
Yeah,
time
for sure.
or it's reasonable or
Yeah.
feasible or.
And with this new software, we just have to have a few more conversation with our assessor and then to see how Sylogist would work on that, but it's definitely conversations we can have, and I'll note that.
Because then I feel like it's more of an honest conversation to be able to say, we set the mill rate at the same. Like the
Yeah.
increase on our mill rate on our side is 0. Doesn't have anything to do with us. You got this earlier, you
Yeah.
check this out, you do your thing, but our side is not changing.
Yeah, and typically, when people get upset about assessments, commercial, sometimes there's like the way it gets assessed, sometimes there's one-off weird things. But for residential, it's like almost always your assessment is less than what you were gonna list your house for.
Oh, absolutely,
So it's like,
yes.
okay, you're mad that your house is assessed at 300,000. Tell me you would not list it for
Oh, right.
350.
Yeah.
And then tell me it's not worth 300,000, right? That's,
But that's for the assessor to deal with. Again,
Yeah.
that's their thing. I feel like we need to separate ourselves
Yeah.
from this.
that's true. That very could be the case, and that's a very good point. Yeah, I'll write that down and we can have that conversation.
Okay, Ryan?
So, let's say I have an average residential house, my assessment's going from 283 to 301, yearly increase is 199. What portion of that is actually town? What portion of that is education?
135 is ours.
And okay, so that's what you were calculating. So $65, that is going straight to the province. Okay, thank you.
Pat, did you have a question too? No? Okay, Cody?
Thank you. The only other thing I'd add, like, I've never heard anybody, I'm sure it happens, I'm sure other people have heard it, I've never heard anybody complain about the fact that their house is worth more. And to me, this is like the same as your income tax. Like, if you get a raise, you're being taxed on that raise, right? And it's the exact same thing with your house. So, like, to me, if we did no increases forever and the assessment just kept going up and that's how we ran the municipality, I'd be 100% okay with that. Like, that's exactly what the county does. And I know the county's got a different formula, they got
I was
different
just going
everything.
to ask you about that.
But that's, like, they just run off of the increased assessed value, right? They never increase the
Yeah,
rate.
which is great in the last 5 years, but from 2016 to 2020, I'd be very curious of how that went during those 5 years, because assessments were rapidly declining. Right, yeah, that's exactly what you would have to do. That was the only way you could do it. But I agree, and that's why it's not just a conversation about using the assessment increases. Like, I do know that we have to have a bigger conversation, because we will have times where it'll be a downward trend, and then you're gonna have to like shoot up your rates like crazy. And then when you have assessment starting to increase, do you leverage that or do you decrease rates? And there's a bigger conversation to be had. But I do agree, this year it is very much in line with what the needs are anyways. So, and it gives council a chance to actually decrease the rates for the non-residential, which the commercial. So for the future, they're a little bit closer together. And for this, I will do that graph again for council for when we pass final budget, just as a, hey, this is where we were, this is where we're going to be in terms of the gap, so that I just can't obviously do that right now. But can do that for when we pass the budget, and then that can be a tool that we can use if council chooses to communicate as well.
So how is everyone feeling with that? Lunch is here. I don't know if we have any questions. We still want to see some movement in this, or what is everyone thinking? How's everyone feeling? Do they need a break, or do we break for lunch and come back, or do we want to wrap this up, or what? Wrap it up? Yeah, everyone's feeling good? Like this is? Everyone's okay, Pat? Colin?
Sorry, I was just gonna say, can we get a quick, 30-second rundown again, just on the tax increase, residential, commercial, the education requisition, and the assessment? And then my other
Really
question.
slow.
Yeah, do we have any outliers this year in terms of really high assessments or really low assessments? And how
Are
are
you
we
speaking
dealing
of
with
to
those?
kind of what happened last year, Colin?
Yeah,
That's
we did get it.
correct,
I
yeah.
have not, so I would like to highlight again that the mill rate calculation is not 100% complete. I did put all the significant data in to get these estimates, but I do need to make sure like everything throughout is reconciled. There's some over/under levies, so don't get hung up on per the cent here, because it could slightly change. And we did get an exceptions report, but I have not had, yikes, I have not had the time to analyze it yet, but we did get an exceptions report, but I don't have that incorporated or anything like that in here.
Go ahead, Farrell.
So sorry, that's part one. And we will, for mill rates, when we bring the mill rates forward, which will not be until May 6th, I believe, because we cannot pass our mill rates, our tax rate bylaw, until the county does theirs, because our annexed properties are taxed by their rates. So we cannot do it until they've done it. And they always pass theirs at the end of April, which means we pass ours at the beginning of May. But by that time, we'll have worked our way through exceptions, and we'll have better idea into what the average properties are, and if there's any changes to, how much people are paying, the averages people are paying. It's not gonna matter so much in terms of the total revenues, it's just gonna change who is paying for it. So if one person's assessment's way higher and it comes down, then it just means somebody else's has to pay more. It's just how the pie is shared. Okay, so right now I'll just do a quick overview. So the operating budget had some wage increases, RCMP increases, utilities and insurance, all areas that we had increases in that were very hard to change or control. We had some changes, some decreases in repairs as we were able to. We also changed our estimate for benefits, which saw some savings in the wages. And that brought us down to needing to raise, initially at the interim budget, we needed to raise $339,000, which was 2.5% increase in our taxes, net tax revenues. Since then, we've had some changes. So we've had some org chart changes. We've had the way our volunteer firefighters get paid for their on-call. So they cannot be paid for just 1 hour. If the call out is an hour or less, they have to be paid at least $45 or $45 or 3 hours, whichever is less, or I think we're gonna do 45. I can't remember, but that changed, so that has a slight impact. We had the reservoir pump fail, and so we need to replace that, which has an impact, $60,000 to be exact. So that brought us to $531,000 increase in our tax revenues from 339 to 531. 531 was 3.91% increase, and now through conversations today, we needed to put the service level review, strategic planning, and deputy fire chief we needed to increase the FTE, or it's not, we need to increase that to make sure that the service levels could remain the same or increase in the sense of the service level review. We'll see both increase in service levels and efficiencies from that. So after putting those in, that brings up our total revenues we needed to raise this year on top of, as an increase from last year to $660,000, which is just less than 5% increase. So 4.86% increase in our tax revenues that we have to raise to make this budget work. And the really, really important thing to highlight is the very big commitment to reserves that council made this year. It is so important as we work our way through asset management and the ever-changing way that the government funds capital and operating projects. It is really important that we plan to take care of our assets and not rely so heavily on potential grants in the future. And so we increased our revenues, our reserve transfers by, of course, I put the sheet somewhere else. I want to say by a few $100,000. So 780, yeah.
780?
Let me just look here, I'll just bring it up. Here. Whoa. Increase that. Yeah. So by 250,000, we increased our reserves by, so that is really, really great. And we will try to continue that trend till we get to the reserve transfers that we should be doing every year. And that's a long-term commitment. And so that's a great work on council to make that commitment. So of the reserve transfers included this year, of course, are our externally restricted landfill reserves. Every ton of waste we put in, we have to put aside for future closure and post-closure needs. We have the wildfire payback, this will be the last year, and we'll have covered the amount that it costs the municipality. We actually just wrapped up the DRP process, which is the disaster recovery relief program, through the province that paid for 90% approximately of our wildfire. So that was really great. It came in, sorry? Yes.
Yes.
Yes. So I do believe, I think we're wrapped up. We made one final payment to the county because of the unexpected, not unexpected in the last year, but unexpected. So when the wildfire happened, when we first started the conversation about the program to get the cost covered, we were told that the city was going to build the province directly for the reception center, and that wasn't even going to be wrapped into the program at all. Meaning that $2 million, that's a lot, 10%, that's 200 grand, right? That cost us 200 grand that we thought wasn't going to cost us anything, because it did end up having to flow through the program and we had to pay for 10%. And of the $10 million, over 2 million was directly related to evacuees. I can't remember the exact amount that the program came on. It was more than 10 million, but around there, maybe 12, 11, somewhere around there. So that will have all been paid back into, we have a contingency, like an operating contingency. And so we paid for the $500,000 that was our share from that. And then now we're making sure we put it back into reserves. So that's what that is. Capital reserves, it wasn't. So the commitment that was made a few years ago is 25 I think 1/4% of our tax revenues goes into this capital reserve. We've cut that slightly just to make the taxes work, but that's the aim, and we should get back to it because that's what our policy says as well. So it's just a general capital. So putting a little money aside so that when you have a capital project in the future, maybe that's unexpected or anything like that, you can use that fund. Water, sewer. So we're starting to get on that. So this year, it was the increases in the rates that ended up allowing us to fund a little bit into these reserves. So that is really, really great improvement. And really, that's pretty much the 250,000 right there is the water sewer. And that was council's commitment to funding the infrastructure maintenance and replacement program for utilities and water and sewer utilities. Perpetual care, that's marginal, but that we raise that through our operations and put it into reserves. Enforcement, this is the Travis funds that we collect and we put into reserves for safety-related projects. And the recreation, this is what we're putting aside for our ice plant replacement. So we started that about 4 years ago and up to the point of the project. So that means that we'll have that money set aside for our portion of the project, hopefully, is the goal. And that brings us to the $1 million that we're putting into reserves. And the net increase in taxes is 660,000. So when we go to our taxes, the impact to our average residential, just based on that $600,000 increase, is $135 a year. However, the province also increased their requisitions by 300,000. So they're also collecting an extra $64, meaning that the average residential's increase will be $199, $16 monthly. And for the,
So Colin's just asking for,
Yeah,
what are the percentage for each?
Yeah, I just wanted a
Just in
quick
30
rundown on the
seconds.
percentage for each. Yeah. Yeah, I just wanted to get a sense of kind of what's what. That's all.
the percentage of what specifically, sorry?
Just the increases and or decreases that we're looking at, not
Yes.
assuming we don't have the mill
Right.
rate info
Right,
yet.
yes, yeah, we're getting to that. Okay,
So,
perfect.
okay, yeah, when we talked about the residential, non-residential, and then the assessed value.
Yeah, so then for the average, as it stands, I'll highlight that the average commercial or non-residential increase is 589, with 355 being for requisitions. And
Sorry, how much? Yeah, can you say that again?
yes, $355.62 for requisitions.
And that's for non-residential?
Yes, correct. And we'll have obviously more accurate numbers, but this should be very close to this, but we'll have exact numbers when we pass the mill rate in May. But they should not change much, so should be pretty accurate to communicate out. For commercial, yes. And the reason for that is because we're decreasing the rate, right? Yeah. So that brings us to our next point. So we had talked about the residential and non-residential rates compared to each other and compared to other municipalities. And council wanted to make sure that we attracted businesses and helped local businesses. And one way of doing that is to make sure that not too much of the tax burden is borne by the non-residential. We're very blessed, lucky, to have the amount of commercial in Drayton Valley that we do. If you look at the graph that I have up, you can see that the town of Drayton Valley's non-residential to residential is higher on the non-residential than a lot of other municipalities. So there's municipalities like, let's say Chestermere, they're like 90% residential. So that their residential has to pay the whole burden, essentially, is what that means. And so we are very lucky to have what we have. It is amazing that Drayton Valley has as much commercial as we have. A very big thanks to the oil industry, the boom days, lots of industry here. However, if you look at the gap between residential and non-residential tax levies, this is where council was hoping to make that gap a little bit smaller, just to encourage more growth in the non-residential, the commercial space. And so given the assessment increases in 2026, we were able to raise the revenues we needed to raise by and at the same time not increasing the residential rates at all. So the residential mill rates will stay the same. So the 7.5127 that you've seen previously, that will be the same rate that will be on your tax notice. So that's staying the same. However, because the assessments increased, we were able to decrease the commercial or non-residential mill rates by 4.7%, which will bring those two numbers back. So the levy for residential average levies will increase a little and the commercial will stay the same, meaning that the two will be closer together. And the impact, so the impact for the average non-residential will be marginal in 2026, being $49.16 a month. So, and most of that is, of that $29 is for requisitions.
So go back to that, sorry. The 49 a month is for residential?
No, the monthly.
Oh, monthly, sorry.
Monthly for the non-residential, average monthly. So just to highlight again, the average residential, both the residential and when we did the interim budget, we did not think that there was going to be much change in commercial at all, and there was. And some of it, there was an increase in general assessments, but we did also have a few more properties. But yes, the assessments went up, meaning that we can adjust the rates and keep our revenues the same, because the one factor of that calculation is increasing, even though it's not ours. So, yeah, so then moving on to some of the projects that are included in this. We have the parks, the Lions West Park Sports Field maintenance that's going to be happening. We have some chainsaw training. We're contributing to the museum's bathroom project. So they are looking to build a bathroom that will service the area more and potentially have events and stuff there. So it'll be great for the community as an extra community space. And then also the Aspen View Pond desludge project. So that's a fairly urgent project that needs to be happening, so that this budget includes all those factors and all those projects. Any questions?
I'll go Colin first. Colin, any questions?
I think that got me where I needed to be. Just sorry, and I'm watching on a phone here because my computer won't work. So the typing is really small. The education side of things, what percentage of, or is that not even factored in here? Sorry.
Sorry, you're talking about requisitions?
The Alberta government education levy.
Yes, that's all included in here.
Okay, so of the 1662 and of the 49 and change, how much of that that's it there? 2964
Right.
and
Okay,
64.
so, yeah. So for the residential, the 199 for the year, 64 of that is for the province.
Okay.
And it does include seniors. I don't have the seniors requisitions, but they've never increased by more than a few percent. So it has the seniors staying stable, but I just don't have the requisition yet. So it's $16.62 a month is the average impact to residential, $5.35 is to the province. And then when it comes down to the non-residential, $589.95 a year impact, and $355 of that is requisitions. And the reason why the requisition as a percent of that is so much higher is because we're decreasing the rate. So almost the entire impact is on the commercial is actually just the requisitions. Which, as a note, we should always make sure that that is covered entirely, like the province's increase is in there. So we shouldn't decrease it beyond that, yeah. And then $49 a month for the average non-residential for total, and 2964 of that being education.
Jen, did you have a question? Oh,
Does that answer your question, Colin? Counselor Clark?
You betcha. Thank you, Ms. Thompson.
any other questions? Okay, well, I think we're good. So I think the next steps, if everyone is feeling good, we'll work with Jen a bit on what those comms pieces will look like. Some language if you're needing help to speak to this in the community. And then we'll be looking to pass the final budget on April 1st at our next regular meeting of Council Day. Farrell?
Sorry, just one tiny confirmation. Can you check for the Youth Advisory Council? They have a very small budget. and I noticed it's
5,000, I
the
think, or
same.
something.
But I wasn't sure if it was under us or under, I'm assuming it is, under FCSS.
It's community services.
It's community
Yeah.
services,
Yeah.
so it is us.
Yeah,
You just
it
let me
is.
know what that is. It's just, well, we have it all
I
here.
think I remember seeing it in there.
It
It's
is,
either
but I
3 or
just want
5
to make sure that they know when we're going into our strategic planning.
What was there?
Yeah. I couldn't remember if it was 3 or 5 or 7. There was some number in there.
Nope, that's shelter. That's something else. 4,600.
4,600. Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, perfect. So everyone is good. If we're done, then we will adjourn this meeting at 12:17 PM, and we will be ready to pass this budget on April 1st.